I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Greater Cleveland. And I welcome you this morning to this hot topic meeting. You are all brave souls to come down here in this frigid, nasty weather, but we made it. And it's sunny outside for a change. Essentials first. If you need to use the restroom, you go out the door in the back, and you just go to the left just before the security desk. I would want to encourage people to sit close to the front if possible. I think it'll make for a better discussion if we do a Q&A with the council members. And we are also fortunate in that we will be videotaped this morning, and we'll be able to put this up on YouTube, which will be really nice for some people who are unable to get here today. I wanted to say something first before turning over to Linda Mayer. I wanted to say a little bit about League. We are a grassroots organization, and our mission is to encourage citizen engagement and provide education on public policy issues and to promote good government. We are strictly nonpartisan. We endorse no candidates, but after careful study of issues, we will do advocacy. The Greater Cleveland League formed just this last summer from a merger of three previously independent leagues in Cuyahoga County, and that would be Cleveland area, Cuyahoga area, and Shaker Heights. There are a great many good reasons for this merger, but I think the one really good reason that is especially relevant to our program today is League's longstanding interest in having effective county government. Even prior to our merger, we have had observers that observe county council meetings, and before the charter government, before that, they observed the commissioners' meetings. The three leagues also collaborated in advocating for the charter in 2009, something like that, yeah. So, League has long been interested in county government, and we feel now that as one league with one voice, we can be even more effective and efficient in our efforts to advocate for good government in Cuyahoga County. If you are not a member, please consider joining the league. Both men and women over 18 years of age are eligible. Elected officials are welcome. You're restricted from leadership roles, of course, but you are welcome to be a member. Membership forms, they look like this. Since we're new, we don't have fancy pamphlets now. But they look like this, or on the back table. Feel free to pick one up. You can also join online on our website at lwvgreatercleveland.org. Back there's also some other information on other upcoming events that the League is organizing and co-sponsoring. Right now, I think, though, I will turn this over to Linda Mayer, who will introduce our speakers. I do want to point out that Linda has been engaged on both county government and regionalism issues for a long, long time, and she has been League's go-to maven with respect to all issues regarding county government. Linda.
Hello, and I was just asked, am I amplified?
No. Turn it towards you. Put it right in your mouth. Right.
Am I now amplified?
Yes.
Okay. I have been asked to announce to you that we're being live streamed as well. So this is actually on the website as we speak. So, that's, I think, really a great benefit when we have such a bad weather day that many people that wanted to come cannot. So they may be watching us right now, although they don't know. It will be linked to the website. Okay, I would like to introduce our first speaker. Before I say, I would like to say that the program we intended for this day was featuring two administrative officials in the area of ethics enforcement and intergovernmental collaboration. And both of them now have different jobs with the county because of the changing of the guard. And so on very short notice, these three county council members have agreed to come and speak to us on those subjects, plus a couple of other ones that they know a lot about and that Lee is very interested in. So the first speaker is going to be David Greenspan. Dave has a bachelor's of science degree from Troy University in Alabama in business and accounting. So that is his big strong suit. He worked himself up from CFO to CEO, currently of Green Elk Consulting Services in Westlake. He moved here from Atlanta something like 10 years ago, maybe 9. Where in Atlanta he had positions, leadership positions in broadcasting of the Olympics, the Turner Media Consultants, and the PGA Golf Tour. He's also was, at that time, a member of the inaugural city council of his Atlanta suburb, Sandy Ridge.
Spring.
Is that correct?
Spring.
Where they newly incorporated themselves and wrote an ethics code. So for that reason, he came here with special interests in those fields. And he became chair of the Rules Etc. Committee with a name so long I cannot remember it. In that committee wrote the ordinance for ethics, the Cuyahoga County Ethics Ordinance, and also the ordinance setting up the office of Inspector General. And so he's going to talk to us about that today. He also, 2 years into his first term of office, he added intergovernmental collaboration to his committee's oversight. And so that's going to be his other subject. And now he is the chairman of the Finance and Budget Committee. So District 1 includes Westlake, North Olmsted, Bay Village, Rocky River, and Fairview Park. Dave Greenspan.
I think is this working? Is this working?
They're all live if they're
Is that
turned
working?
on.
The battery light's on. That's all right. Is it working?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, this is better. Great.
Yes.
Well, thank you, and thank.
Oh, that's good.
Was that good?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Linda, for that introduction, and thank everybody for coming out. I know this may be one of the coldest days of the year, and for you to come downtown to our new administration building is very admirable of your commitment to good government. And obviously, as was mentioned earlier, we've had an observer at every meeting, sometimes two observers at one meeting, and sometimes even at committee meetings. And that's the best way, I think, for government to operate as efficiently and effectively and transparently as possible. We have folks that are here that are holding us accountable to what we're doing and representing the government. I do also want to recognize, I see my colleagues, Councilmember Simon and Councilmember Jones are here as well. They're going to speak later. Mr. Jones and I agreed that we wouldn't wear a tie today, and I lived up to my end of the obligation. However, Mr. Jones snuck a tie in on me, so if I seem a little more casual, it was by design, but it didn't quite work out that way. So as Linda said, let me just tell you, Linda and I have developed a very unique kind of relationship as we were crafting the ethics ordinance, 4 years ago. Linda and I were talking every day, almost every day. I think her husband's upset with me because one night we talked and I think she burned dinner, and I think he was a little upset. But Linda would call me Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock. We'd talk Friday nights at 6. It was just, Linda was very engaged in helping us craft the ethics ordinance, and that was, to me, was very important that we have citizen involvement. When I moved here, I've only been here 7.5 years, as Linda said, from a suburb of Atlanta. And one of the things I saw when I was asked to run for this office, people said, well, you got to lay out your platform and you need to focus on jobs first. And I said, well, jobs are clearly important, and we have an obligation to provide an opportunity and an environment to foster job creation. But this county is coming out of a significant issue with trust and ethics. And I took it upon myself early in my campaign, and actually I declared the first week in March of 2010, and within 2 weeks I proposed a draft ethics ordinance, because I was so steadfast in my belief that this region must turn its perception around in the public. Because just like in business, and in business, people invest in companies for two primary reasons. Number one, strength of management, and number two, quality of product. There's no doubt that we have a quality product here in Northeast Ohio, but there was a confidence in the strength of management that had been in place in this county prior to January 1, 2011. And I felt it was very important that we start off on the right foot and put a flag in the ground and to say, we are going to operate in a completely different manner than the previous administration, previous government had operated. And we were very successful. We went through, and Councilmember Simon was on the committee the first 2 years, and during those first 4 months, we crafted that ethics ordinance. We met once or twice a week for 2 to 3 hours. Started out with going through definitions and working our way all the way through to policy, and it was a 4-month, very extensive process. Not only did we receive input from the league unofficially, and I say through Linda and others, but we also sought the assistance of the Ohio Ethics Commission, who actually took our final product and reviewed it. Now, they can't sign off on it, but they reviewed it and gave us guidance, which was very important, because that's the first time I believe they had ever been engaged in such a way in crafting an ethics ordinance. And when we talk about our ethics ordinance itself being the model ethics ordinance, or the most comprehensive in the state, it is. And it is for a couple reasons. Number one, we took the ORC, which has ethical provisions all over the code, different code sections. We condensed it into one document. The Ohio Ethics Commission actually helped us strip out language that was not applicable to county government. Because if you looked at the ORC statute, it has to cover every type of political subdivision, whether you're talking about cities, townships, villages, schools, everything. So they helped us pare it down. But we also looked at some of the provisions and how we can strengthen current law. So, for example, we put a provision in there regarding ethics training. So every employee, every vendor, and every lobbyist in the county must go through ethics training. But not only ethics training upon the initial hire, but also an update annually. So the Inspector General, the Director of Human Resources, every year conducts ethics training. A lot of it's online, which is good. And during that session, the intent is for them to identify issues that have come up over the past year that maybe folks need to be reminded of, or changes to our current ethics ordinance. And we've made a few over the past few years, so they know what the new rules are. And the intent isn't to prevent people from doing their job. We had the first ethics training of vendors. We had a vendor say, well, you're just doing this to prevent us from doing our job, or you're making it more difficult for us to. And we said, no, let me explain to you what's going on. The purpose for having this is we're now going to enforce laws that have never been enforced in this county. And we don't want you to get caught up in the fact that you may be violating state law. And it could be something as simple as vendors in the past giving sports tickets to employees, because that's just the way, in the private sector, things like that very well may happen. But in the public sector, if it was happening, we were letting them know that was not going to happen anymore. So it really was a protection on their side. And so we took the lead on that. And I believe, and we're going through revisions now, we actually have a revision that's before the Ohio Ethics Commission doing a 4-year look back on our ethics code to see what's worked, what hasn't worked. We've made revisions to it as we've gone along. And we plan on bending Linda's ear a little bit on helping us look through that. But we're also going to present that to council as soon as we get it back from the Ohio Ethics Commission. But it's not enough just to have a strong ethics code on paper. You have to have somebody there to enforce it. And I'll tell you, there was a Bay Village resident, actually before I was elected, who said, okay, great, you're coming out with this ethics proposal, but what do you do about enforcement? Which was a good point. And I said, well, what are your thoughts? And he said, well, there's this thing in government called inspectors general. And I said, okay, and he educated me on that. And shortly after that, after I introduced as a candidate in 2010, the ethics ordinance proposal, I crafted modeling after Broward County, Florida, County Inspector General. Now, I could say we're the only state in Ohio that has a County Inspector General. I haven't always agreed with the Inspector General's opinions on some things, but we've got somebody there whose sole job is to enforce the ethics ordinance, to be a moderate, to watch out for fraud, waste, and corruption. And so we've taken the right steps, and we'll continue to do so, and we'll continue to look at ways to continue to build upon. Because I do believe in 2015, from where we were in 2011, that people have greater sense of confidence in our county government. And we're going to continue to expound upon that. So that's kind of my feelings on where we are with ethics and the Inspector General, and Linda mentioned it, and how we brought it from effectively a thought all the way to fruition and to today. Now, the other topic that Linda asked me to speak of was collaboration. And 2 years in, so we and you my Southern's going to come out. Y'all know this. I don't get to say that often, so bear with me. My son's in school in Alabama, so every once in a while I go down there and I get to spit out some Southern. But some of us are elected. We're all elected to 4-year terms, except the even districts in the first election were 2-year terms to get us on a staggered basis. We don't break our legislative sessions up as they do in the State House or in Washington, where you have legislation. I think they're in 130, 131 right now in Columbus, 130, 132. But we do every 2 years change committee chairs, or not only chairs, but opportunity for committee assignments. And after the first 2 years, we collaborated and consolidated some committees. And so one of the committees that was folded into ethics rules, charter amendments, and council operations was intergovernmental relations. So that was put into one group. Unfortunately, during the last 2 years, we've had 3 directors on the administration side. So it's been a little challenging for us to be able to coordinate and get our efforts in line. But I can tell you what the county's done so far in some of the areas that they've worked on collaborating. Because I will tell you, in my opinion, that collaboration component, and Eddie Krause is here, and he's the new director of collaboration. To me, it's the most essential external function that the county can provide. And whether it's offering county services to municipalities and townships and villages or other political subdivisions, we offer our healthcare benefits to RETA and to the Land Bank, but to foster collaboration between already existing organizations, which we've not done. We've not taken a very progressive stand, and I think we need to do that. And Eddie and I have talked about that. But some of the things we've done in the past, and Eddie can address some of the things that we're appoint the interim, I guess he's going to be the director of collaboration, assuming collaboration goes through. So we'll just call him Eddie. So some of the things we've worked on, if you look at the different areas within county government, so we have information technology area, and Jeff Mowry, Director Mowry, heads that area up. So we worked and offer to communities assistance with their websites, assistance with data storage, electronic data storage. Anything that you could think of from an IT perspective that the county offers to itself, the intent is to offer those services to communities. Most of which, if we offered at a fee, the fee will be effectively our rate. We can't make money. We can't become a profit center off other public subdivisions. In human resources, as an example, we offer a number of services, whether it's training. So if we go into a community and assist with their sexual harassment training, we can only charge them, if it's $35 an hour, whatever our true cost is, we pass on to them, which is much more cost effective for them, because they're never going to get that level of training with that sophistication for that rate anywhere else. And also, I believe, serves what county government is supposed to do, which is to assist our local communities in becoming more efficient and helping to expand their areas of operation. In public works, the county offers a number of public works, and Vice President Jones was actually chair of the Public Works Committee for 4 years. We talk about providing sewer maintenance services to cities. We talk about offering road maintenance assistance to cities. Those types of services. If we're doing it, then there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to offer it. So almost from that perspective, whatever we do, we should be able to translate into our communities. I can say that's what we've done a little bit in the past. But Eddie, do you want to talk a little bit about what, we're a new administration here, so County Executive Budish is going through right now, and obviously because there's no roadmap to how county government operates, because we're the only county in the state that's a charter government set up this way. Summit County is different. I get frustrated when people compare it to Summit County, but they still elect the sheriff They elect a fiscal officer. We only have 13 charter elected officials, 11 members of council, the executive and the prosecutor. So with us being unique and new, and Executive Budish being the first executive after the incorporation or the starting of this new government, we're going through a transition right now. So the executive I have not sat down on his collaborative endeavors, but Eddie may be able to shed some light as to some discussions he's had. Yeah. You want my mic? I don't want you speaking into my shirt.
I got a loud voice. My kids at least say I have a loud voice. So, good morning. How's everyone here? So I was appointed as and David realizes that I'm the interim. In a few weeks I'll be up here and he's going to be grilling me with questions. So I'm the interim. I do have to go through a confirmation process in a few weeks in front of County Council. So just to give you a little bit, and I also want to introduce Carlton Laster. Carlton is my partner in this, in regional collaboration. So with Executive Budish, I don't know, many of you may know him, some of you that don't, he did give us a charge in this effort, and I'll give you just a few things he said to us. Number one, be broad in your thinking, and as you're being broad and trying to come up with the vision of what is regional collaboration, always be bold, and be bold in terms of what you're looking to do and what you're looking to accomplish. And the other thing that the executive talks about a lot is if you know anything about this community and about this county, we've always operated in silos, sort of just very small, individual entities without really talking to each other and without coordinating with each other, without collaborating with each other. And so his objective is really to, at least the first 4 years, is to let's break down every silo in this community and let's bring everyone together. There should be no more silos within Cuyahoga County. There's no greater silo than the river that separates east from west. If anyone that's grown up here realizes, we've created our own silos, and it's time that we start to break down all of our silos. And the fourth objective that the executive gave us was everything is on the table in terms of regional collaboration. There's nothing that's off the table. So with those 4 objectives in mind, be broad, be bold, break down every silo within this community, and everything is on the table, you start to realize it's a tall measure for Carlton and I to begin the process. So just to give you a couple pieces of background, I am born and bred here. Grew up in the Heights. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Heights, but it was a great neighborhood. I went to Cleveland Heights High School, Wiley Junior High School, Belvoir Elementary School. So that was really my formative years. It was the greatest time in my life. When you grew up in the Heights, it really sets you who you are. I think it makes Cleveland, our community, Cuyahoga County, unique, because when you say you're from the Heights, it says something about you. It says something about who you are as an individual, your values, your community values, your aspect. And I can take that everywhere, wherever you go. You're so proud of sort of where you are, and how you grew up. And so when I graduated law school a few years ago, I decided I wanted to give back into the community. So I became a county prosecutor, spent most of my years in the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. Had some great mentors in the prosecutor's office with John T. Corrigan, Stephanie Tubbs-Jones, Bill Mason, Tim McGinty, just to name 4 of my bosses. And so it really gave me an opportunity to be a public lawyer and to make a difference in the law and in the community. So that really was my formative years. I was able to be the supervising attorney for the mortgage fraud task force. If you know anything about our community, we had a little problem with mortgage fraud. We were the epicenter in the foreclosure crisis, and it really devastated our community, and it's going to take us many, many years to get out of that crisis. But we have to, because it will ultimately make or break our community, whether or not we solve the housing crisis, the mortgage, the financial crisis. So that gives you a little bit about my background and what my passion is in terms of public safety, law enforcement. The second aspect of my career, I've been an elected official in Solon for 13 years. I'm the vice mayor. So I do have a little bit of background in how to manage and organize communities and in services. So Carlton and I, when we talk about regional collaboration, I think the council, the former executive, his administration, I think they did a great job in beginning the process of working with the municipalities. I look at all the work that the council and the former administration has done to regionally collaborate in terms of, David mentioned the IT services, the HR services, the public works services that Purnell's community. Sonny Simon's been a leader in sustainability and in reaching out to the communities, how to be more green, how to be more sustainable. Public safety, we have now a 911 system, a CCOM system that's reaching out and regionalizing our approach to public safety and emergency management. The health benefits, now many communities, I don't know, we probably have 17 or 18 communities now that have signed up for Cuyahoga County health benefits. So I think the county and the community has done a great job in terms of bringing in the municipalities, getting cooperation from the mayors and city councils. So what's the next step in terms of, we've worked well with governments. I think we're starting to build a great relationship with our state legislature. We had a great meeting last week in the executive's office with our state legislative delegation. So we have that strategic partnership with our state legislators. We're beginning the conversation with other counties, because it's not just our county that's affected, but it's 7 or 8 or 9, 10 counties within the region that are affected by what we're doing. So what we're looking to do is really building on the regional collaboration and looking to our strategic partnerships. Those folks out in the community that really haven't been a part of government, that haven't been a part of the process. And that can be anywhere in the range from our faith-based community. Our faith-based communities out there, they're working hard in the community, they're doing some great things, but I don't think we've looked at them as a strategic partner. And that's certainly what we're going to start to build on. All of the folks out there, whether it's the faith-based community, the African-American community, the senior community, veterans groups, the Hispanic community, I think is an area where we haven't done a great job of reaching out. And so we're really starting to look at not just regional collaboration with cities, but who are our strategic partnerships? Where can we find our strategic partnerships out in the community? And the other thing I would throw out is the business community. We're going to really look to the business community as a partnership. And I'll just give one example, and then we'll take, we'll stop. But the executive and I had a great opportunity to go to Slavic Village. Spent a lot of time in Slavic Village. Actually, Councilman Jones was with us on several occasions in Slavic Village. And if you know anything about Slavic Village, it was a wonderful community. It was an ethnic community, one of the great areas, you had owner-occupied homes in most of the streets. They were safe. You had community watches. Everyone took care of their neighborhood. And then about 10 years ago, things started to degrade in Slavic Village. And it became the epicenter of the foreclosure crisis in Cleveland. Tony Brancatelli, the councilperson, Jim Rokakis, the former treasurer, actually appeared not only on 60 Minutes, but in front of congressional committees talking about what happened to Slavic Village, because places like Slavic Village, so goes Slavic Village, so goes our community. So what they've done in Slavic Village to restore Slavic villages, they've created what's called a great public-private partnerships. So they've decided, which homes are going to be destroyed and which homes need to be rehabbed, and they've solicited from developers and from business community. They have Forest City and Safeguard Properties now have a contract with Slavic Village Development Corporation where they're going in and they're providing the capital to be able to either destroy the home or rehab the home. And now what's going on in Slavic Village, which is going on in Ohio City and Waterloo and Gordon Square and community and University Circle and all these different areas, people are starting to move back. People are buying homes again in Slavic Village and raising their children there and starting to become vibrant neighborhoods again all throughout the community. Well, these are our strategic partners. These are the folks that we need to be a part of, and that's sort of the vision that we're going to look to and in rebuilding a lot of our community neighborhoods and community partnerships. So.
Thank you very much,
You're welcome.
Director Strauss, or
Kraus.
excuse me, or I should say Acting Director.
Interim,
Strauss.
we call it.
Interim,
Yeah.
interim. Thank you for
You're
backing
welcome.
up
Wishful thinking.
the subject.
Very wishful.
We have about 5 more minutes for the first speaker, and there might be some questions from the audience on either one of the two. Either one of the two. Yes, excellent. Thank you. You always tell me if this is not exactly on. Okay. Are there some questions for Council Member Greenspan? Yes.
When you look at the density charts, the population density charts of Northeast Ohio over the last 20, 30 years, you see a hollowing out process. And I guess on a more fundamental basis, is our county sustainable in the long run? And are we able to make the changes needed to make it sustainable if it's not?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know, getting back to the original, you know, the composition of our new government, and people thought, well, January 1 of 2011, we were just going to be completely, you know, off and running. Well, you know what? Just because you paint a car doesn't make it run any better. So we've had to develop and prove that we're here and that we're in the midst of turning things around. Now, a lot of things that are happening now. Let's talk about the urban core, the inner ring, and the outer ring. Talk about Cuyahoga County in particular. A lot of things happening in the urban core have been happening long before we became, you know, this new government took place. So you're seeing tremendous growth and opportunity here. And, you know, people are primarily focused on the young people moving into downtown. Well, there are a lot of people my age who are moving downtown. Empty nesters, their kids are moving out. They want to come back downtown, or they want to come back downtown for the first time because of the vibrancy of what's going on here. That's a plus. The outer ring communities, I see Councilman Gallagher's here, and he represents Strongsville and North Royalton, and that part of the county. Our portions of the county have seen growth, despite and in spite of the input from the county government. But the urban ring obviously has been challenged, and that's where, if you look, you know, initially you have the phrase urban sprawl, where people go from the urban core to the inner ring to the outer ring and keep moving out. What we've had now is urban skip. We've had people go from the city, they're skipping the inner ring, they may go to the outer ring communities, or they'll just leave the county altogether. I think for the first time, what you're seeing here in Northeast Ohio is a region that has had focus in the past, either on the auto industry or the steel industry, industries that suffered, and so did our economies. What you're seeing now is a diversity of businesses either emerging here or taking a stronger lead in creating the economic vibrancy of our community. You've got a strong medical community. Obviously, we know with the clinic in UH, Metro Health. We still have the steel and the manufacturing industry. But what you're starting to see, which hasn't been here, and I can speak specifically to my district, Highland Software, Westlake is kind of becoming a little bit of a golden triangle, as you saw in North Carolina. I don't want to say Silicon Valley, but we're starting to attract out there technology jobs. Highland Software, I think, will have 2,200 employees in Westlake by the end of this year. Well, that wasn't there 10 years ago. And so you've got other industries that are starting. Our movie industry, obviously, is something in our theater district, and some of these other things in the arts and culture area. We are starting to become, and I've said this since I've been here, we are the next boom region in the country. We have been our own worst, and I'll throw myself in this category, our own worst enemy when it comes to promoting Northeast Ohio. When I first moved here, people would say, why? You know, from Atlanta to here, why? Well, instead of saying why, how about welcome what brought you here? You're going to get the same answer, but the feeling is much more warm. And so that attitude is changing. And so do I see prosperity? I do. I think this new government was definitely a contributing factor to how we got here. I also think what happened in the past administration, you know, the previous commissioners took a lot of heat for that convention center and medical mart. It's not going to save the county in itself, but it's part of a puzzle. It's part of an economic development vibrancy that contributes to the downtown region, which does help the entire county as a whole.
I think because we have 3 speakers, and each one of our speakers gets a half hour with us, and I think that we probably do have a question that's exactly on ethics. Otherwise, I would like to thank Councilmember Greenspan very much for coming today,
Sure.
and we have a little
Is this under
memento.
under $75?
This one is permitted by the ethics code.
All right.
So, thank you very much, Mr. Greenspan
Great, thank you.
and Director Kraus. And now we know whom to address when we have questions about our suburb or our city joining up with some county function. I would like now to introduce,
We never
yes.
really got his name.
Excuse
We
me?
never really got the gentleman's name. Eddie was not introduced. We did not get his name.
Eddie Kraus.
Okay, thank you.
I did not expect Eddie to be here.
Emails can
This
come
was
to
an added attraction.
Kraus, Krus, @cuyahogacounty.us.
You can always email people in the county administration.
Kraus.
You can always email them with their first initial, their last name, and then cuyahogacounty.us. That gets you to almost anybody in the administration or on your council. Okay, I would like now to introduce Pernell Jones. He is at the moment Vice President of County Council. He's a lifelong resident of this county. He has his Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Maryland in 1991. And since 1992, he's been a licensed funeral director. His new position is as Director of Community Relations for the Pernell Jones and Sons Funeral Home on the Near East Side of Cleveland. He's also currently the chair of Council's Health, Human Services, and Aging Committee. And as I did mention already, he's vice president of our county council. And in his role as prime mover of the county's new disparity study, he's going to talk to us about this and its implications for equal opportunity employment in the county. And I'm hoping we'll learn a lot from him about that. As well as some things from that he has chosen to tell us about in the area of health and human services. Councilman Jones represents District 8, and District 8 is comprised of several East Side Cleveland wards, and also Maple, Garfield, Newburgh, and Cuyahoga Heights. So those are his communities, his territory, and Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Linda. Well, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
And again, I'd just like to thank Linda for inviting me this morning, and it's really a pleasure to be here with you today. As Linda has asked me to speak on disparity study, I
Sir,
said
the microphone's not picking you up.
it's not picking me up
Up a little. You can use that one also.
a little better. Can I take it out? Okay. Is that better?
Yes. Much.
Good, good. Well, again, Linda, thank you for inviting me this morning. And as she said, she's asked me to speak a little on disparity study. And I figured if I go 30 minutes, that might be a while.
The 30 minutes is the entire time that we spend on your subject.
And question and answer.
So we'd like to have some time for some questions at the end, so you can split it up as you wish.
Certainly, certainly. One thing I'd like to do is, I've been an elected official for 3 years. This is my first term as an elected official. And as Linda said, I've been a licensed funeral director for over 20 years. And one observation I've made about elected officials is we all have an experience. We all have a background. And it really crafts how we see our office and how we all give our effective service to the community. So I thought maybe I'll take a few minutes, maybe just give you a little of my background and experience and give you a sense of where I've come from. Again, I've been a licensed funeral director for over 20 years, since 1992. And to be honest, I thought that's all I'd ever do is be a licensed funeral director. But I ran for elected office, and the reason why is I grew up right next door to grew up within my funeral home. We lived upstairs and the business was downstairs. I went to college for a degree and received a degree in business management. But once I joined the family business and started working and growing our business, we had some challenges. We had challenges in growing from what was a house and living quarters upstairs in the business to expanding and growing our business. To be very blunt, we were redlined in the east side of Cleveland. And we had many challenges. I remember sitting with many banks, and with my father sitting with many banks, and not being able to get those loans. But the city of Cleveland came along one day in the early 90s, mid-90s, the empowerment zone. And they used their leverage because they said, we deposit with so many of you banks, you have to help our residents and our stakeholders in the community. And with their support and the federal program of the empowerment zone, we were given a loan by a local bank. In fact, I'll say it, First Merit did a great job. First Merit gave us the loan. 10 years later, we repaid the loan in full. This was 1998 to 2008. And we were able to expand and build a new facility across one entire city block on the east side of Cleveland, just 3 blocks from Cleveland Clinic. And that was the first experience that I had with working with an elected official who was Councilman Frank Jackson at the time. He went on to do some other great things after that. But that type of work, that type of partnership is one experience that I had that helped craft the things that we do, and part of the reason why I chose the chairmanship of Public Works, because it was more than just the infrastructure work. It's where economic development happens, because that's where the small businesses are that maintain the facilities here, whether it's carpeting and whether it's road work and bridge work. So being able to support small businesses was in my wheelhouse. So those were the things and the opportunities I saw, again, to provide a disparity study, to look and see if there is inequality. And as a result of our study, we did find hard evidence that there was a racial disparity, and that was across the contracting world, from professional services, whether those are legal services, accounting services, the actual construction world, from roads, bridges to every contracting service provided. And as a result, we hired 2 companies. One was called UQuant, and both are out of Atlanta. And the second was Griffin and Strong. Okay. UQuant, they provided the hard evidence data collection. Okay. Griffin and Strong provided the anecdotal evidence. And over the last year, these 2 companies have worked together, provided the data, and then have provided recommendations. And there were 17 recommendations that they provided to begin to address the concerns. Majority were race neutral. Okay. There were race conscious programming as far as outcomes. Okay. And I'm going to take 1 second and kind of step back. The study has been in the works for 3 years. Our Office of Procurement and Diversity, Director Lenora Lockett, she brought this whole concept of disparity studies to council in our transition time and the months before we all took office. She laid the seed for the concept. And with that, I sort of picked up the ball as chairman of Public Works and ran with it. One of the first things I did was actually to create the legislation. And after doing a little study about it and seeing where other cities had maybe found challenges or fallen short in certain areas, I crafted very simple language. I said the county shall conduct a disparity study once every 5 years. And that was the beginning of the legislation. And the reason I said it that way is because there was a court case where the judge threw out the study and the programming that was done because it was based off of hard evidence that was over 5 years old. So I said it's very simple to say the county should conduct a study once every 5 years. That would guarantee that we would always have fresh data at all times. So that was the beginning of the long process. But again, it was a 3-year process. And over the course of 3 years, I said, oh, can we really wait to do what I think provides income equality across this county so that local businesses, regardless of color, are able to take an advantage of the opportunities that our tax dollars provide. Okay, there's the potential for work, the billions of dollars of work being done in this county, to be done by those outside of this county. And unless a concentrated effort, a concerted effort is made to make sure our local businesses, regardless of color, but also including color, Hispanic, including females, that if there's not a concerted effort and concentrated thought towards it, it can be missed. So over the course of 3 years, I said, how do we provide this benefit to the community? And again, over 3 years, we learned that some of those terms are community benefits, community benefit programs, or community benefit agreements, community benefit policies. Okay? So since we had no hard evidence where we could intentionally do things in the context of race, I said I had to, over 3 years, maybe come up with some creative ways. So we've had many projects. We have the Medical Mart. We've had the Convention Center Hotel. We have had the Syntax legislation that has passed. And we have had impacts in all of those areas, projects, and many others over the last 3 years. I'll share with you first with the Medical Mart. The Medical Mart, there really was no conversation around any female or racial-based outcomes on the projects. And we were picketed. In the first year, there was a contingent of individuals who stood outside of the old county building. Some of them, many of them I actually knew. So I kind of took it personally as I had to walk into my building and I had to walk past friends who were standing there with picket signs. I felt picketed personally. And which of course I was in that respect. But everybody's human, you still take it personally. So I went in that day and I determined what could I do at that moment, knowing our disparity study was still ways off to be impactful. And through committee process, I simply said, what are we doing to make sure the residents of this county are getting jobs, getting contracting opportunities locally, minority-based, whether that's Hispanic, African-American, female, what are we doing? And I remember someone saying, well, slow down, Councilman Jones, you shouldn't be touching on these subjects. And I said, well, no, we need to hear something. And from that, we teased out of those vendors and those representing us here at the county just what the numbers were. There wasn't anything wrong with sharing what the numbers were. And we actually had good numbers. There were some solid numbers in contracting opportunities and workforce opportunities on the Medical Mart. And we advertised them, posted them with the local newspaper, and got them out into the community. But there was an imbalance in that the picketing made the paper. The response, as you know, is not as equally well publicized. So that was a learning experience for me. The next project was the Convention Center Hotel. And I said, I don't want that to happen again. I don't want picketing to happen. I don't want anyone to think the county is not interested in serving all the residents of this county and stakeholders of this county. So from the very beginning of the Convention Center Hotel, I said, we need to determine what the economic inclusion goals are on this project. Again, they said, slow down, Councilman. You just can't start talking about race, and I said, well, I need a creative solution. We don't have a disparity study yet, but I need a solution. And I'll tell you, Jeff Applebaum was the one who actually came up with it. I give him credit. He said, we cannot legally mandate any race-conscious programming or outcomes, but we can ask for them voluntarily. Any company that sees a value in hiring a company or individual, then that's their prerogative. Said, we will let them know this issue is important to us, to the county, and ask them what their economic inclusion goals are during the bidding process. So Turner Construction Company and the two others that bid on the project, they submitted what they had planned to do. And it was, as part of the bidding process, there was a little competitive nature going on. So we teased out a little more than maybe we thought we would have gotten, but it was all voluntary, something they wanted to do. Turner Construction won the bid, received the project, and gave us a book about that thick of what the inclusion goals were, with percentages and dollar amounts, and it was a great thing. So I took that information and I ran it over to the Plain Dealer. I said, here it is, right here. So we got out in front of it this time. Again, we still don't even have a disparity study yet, but we've got voluntary actions from the community. And I just kept going around and saying, a good attitude is better than good legislation any day. And you still have to watch. You still gotta watch. But it was an excellent effort to talk about these things voluntarily. Okay, the numbers were strong. They were solid. And now we had the Convention Center Hotel. And now I'm feeling good. I'm feeling a little emboldened here. So the next thing that comes along, the sin tax. Okay, the sin tax legislation. An issue that was not very successful in the city of Cleveland maybe 20 years ago. It passed, but now it's come back around. The state needs the county to put it on the ballot, and they need an elected official to be the lead sponsor. So I see it as an opportunity. I see $260 million over 20 years. Anytime a light bulb or something goes out or a roof collapses, well, I won't say collapse, but when any work that needs done on any of the 3 sports facilities, that's what the $260 million is for. So I saw it as an opportunity. I said, with $260 million, we should have economic inclusion goals. We should be focusing on income equality for the residents of this county on these projects. So I said to the powers that be, and I said, I will be the sponsor. And if you can provide some economic inclusion goals, I think I can more effectively campaign in the areas that you have not been as successful. Cleveland, east side of Cleveland, other areas. With goals, I can be more effective in my campaigning on behalf of the syntax letter. And we sat down, we talked, and they agreed. They said, this is a good thing. Let's do this, let's craft the message, let's craft what we will do, and let's go campaign. And we did. There were many people following different sides of the issue, but our focus really was, for me, was on making sure the residents of this county, again, regardless of color, had an opportunity. If a light bulb went out, somebody should be up there with a cigarette in one hand and a light bulb in the other hand. In those areas that were of the community that were greatly impacted by alcohol and tobacco production, consumption, and we actually did those things. We came to agreements, and we're working on them now. Those monies don't come out until August. They won't be distributed until August of this year. So again, we are operating in a community benefit policy, under a policy. We don't have any agreements. We don't have any programs in place yet, but these are the things that help drive what our new mandate is, which is to improve the economic competitiveness of this county and the residents of this county. We are to create an environment. We don't necessarily create jobs other than the ones in this building and the ones that are directly under the administration. But we ought to create an environment. And those are the things that we were doing, that we were able to do. So with those things in place as a model and a template for what we'd like to see, now we have the disparity study. And we are close to the point where the study is now, the disparity study, along with our community benefits program, because we now have a small business program, but our community benefits program, coupled with the disparity study, that is now in Committee of Public Works, which I was chair, and I have transitioned to Health and Human Services, but I certainly will continue to focus on inclusion goals. but it is in committee now, and we are looking now to vet it. And here's what's going on. Although it's in committee, and in the last committee meeting that I chaired in December, I had representatives from across the county, stakeholders, contractors, union representatives, nonprofit organizations who are vested in economic inclusion. They filled this room, and we discussed the legislation. But some of you have been here before. You understand the environment of this room. It's not much opportunity for the public to comment. Yes, you can comment at the start and you can comment at the end, but you don't really get the interaction. So as I sat in that seat right there where Dan Brady's name is at the moment, as I sat there, I said, this isn't working the way I kind of envisioned it. So what I did was I held it in committee. It's in committee now, but I'm working now to create a forum where I just convene the stakeholders of the community, and we're going to take those 17 recommendations, ask for written comments first, but then we're going to bring everyone together and allow the community to discuss it in a more informal setting than this room. And the goal is to get buy-in, to get comments, let them opine, to comment, to critique. And when that process has been completed, then I feel the community will have had a fair and proper opportunity to discuss these issues of income equality and the community benefits that are a part of this program and this study. And with those things when that has been completed, then we will return back to the committee. And time-wise, I'm leaving it open because I want it to be right, not fast. I don't want to just rush through it. I wanted to make sure we take this step by step, that we all walk together in this process, because in the end, the benefits are for the entire community. As I said before, these are your tax dollars. So that's where we are now. The legislation and the community program, benefits program is in committee, but in the coming, I would say within the next 30 days, 30 to 45 days, we will really start that community process of discussing the community benefits program. So with those things, I will touch briefly on health and human services. How am I doing on time?
Could tell us something, just something interesting that the county might be doing in the area of health and human services, which is something new or innovative or that involves only county initiative, not something that's passed down to us through the state.
Well,
and also we could just break off now and take questions, because usually lead members have lots of questions.
let's do that. You know what? I'll do one thing. I'll share with you an experience again. As I said before, we're molded by our experiences. In 2008, we remember Stephanie Tubbs Jones passed of an aneurysm, a beautiful woman. That same year, my mother had a ruptured aneurysm. She survived. She happened to be with her niece at that time, summer of 2008. That was during the presidential election. My brother and I went to Baltimore, Maryland, where she was living, and we stayed with her each a week at a time until she recovered from that aneurysm. We brought her back to Cleveland, and January 1 of 2009, we brought her to Cleveland, and she was in a rehab facility for several months, but as she got stronger, we brought her, and she now lives next door to me, but with my brother. He lives, and we all live right next to the funeral. But from that moment, I started to understand some of the senior needs that she had. She was a school teacher in the Cleveland system, the Baltimore school system, for over 40 years. Now she was retired, and now she was almost starting to become sedentary. And we had a local senior center where she was able to go. I'd seen this center for years and had never truly grasped what it did or how important it was. But now she was able to go there. I would take her there, and then we learned they had transportation. So now they were picking her up. She was going. They helped her with her blood pressure and other issues, other health, kept her updated on her health situation. And she took computer classes, dancing classes, things that just, it really positively impacted her mind and kept her engaged. And I can see now the value of it. So in the arena of health and human services, we are now, I'm now focusing on the challenges that we're from loss of state funding and to our senior centers. We have lost several. We've heard of one in East Cleveland, struggling with those in Maple Heights, and then others. So I can't stand here and promise dollars, but I certainly have a commitment to those. And I've just spoken to the Senior Center Coalition 2 weeks ago. And just to hear their concerns and get a better understanding of what they do and what their needs are. And we will walk hand in hand through the challenges that they have. So I'll stop there, and if there are any thoughts or questions.
Do lead members have some questions on?
Well, I have
The two microphones seem to be quite different.
I don't need a microphone, I'm sure.
Yes, you do. It's the live
Oh,
stream.
well, okay. I'm glad Mr. Kraus is still here too, because you brought up East Cleveland and Maple Heights, and there are communities like those, and the disparity you spoke about. How can we ever help them out without some revenue sharing, even if it's only within the county? From Bay Village, Solic, Beechwood, helping communities like East Cleveland and Maple Heights. Why can't that happen? And can it?
Ed, do you want to take a first shot at it? The regional collaborator?
I mean, obviously, with our WAP, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think we're in our fifth week. So I mean, but honestly, I'll give you just a couple examples. So we've Gary Norton, who's been a friend of mine and who's the mayor of East Cleveland, and has become a very close friend of all of ours. Gary had an issue with snowplows. If you know East Cleveland, they were desperate for some snowplows, and especially if you know, if you ever gone up some of the hills from Euclid Avenue going up to the Heights, very difficult for anyone. So we were able to make an arrangement with Huntington Bank, Dan Walsh, who was at Huntington Bank, to loan the money to make sure that East Cleveland got snowplows. So that is that's a Band-Aid on a very complex issue that we will be in deep discussions on the future of East Cleveland. The executive has already been on some very deep discussions on the future of East Cleveland, and we're going to work with them to make sure that it's not just Band-Aids that we're talking about, but it's a long-term solution. And I'm going to tell you a little story about just recent conversations I've had with Maple Heights and Seven Hills. So both of those communities, and many of the communities, Garfield, Bedford Heights, South Euclid, have difficult times. Our economy is changing. The needs of local businesses, startups, entrepreneurs have changed. The type of businesses and the type of storefronts and the type of buildings that they look for are changing greatly. Even in Solon, I find the changes. We're looking at much more medical equipment technology, different type of technology that are looking for businesses. So recently, I had a couple conversations with Jeff Lansky, who's the mayor of Maple Heights, and it's an area that Purnell Jones is very familiar with, and Rich D'Aquila, who's the mayor of Seven Hills. And they have a difficult time of keeping and they don't have a lot of business in those communities, and they have a very difficult time in making payroll and in finding good businesses to locate in those communities, and they lose business because of that. They don't have good building space for those type of businesses, so they lost businesses. Some went to independents, some have gone to other communities, and so my question, and this is something that we're going to look at, long term, is, well, what's going to happen to the Seven Hills and the Maple Heights and the Bedford and Garfield if they don't have the type of infrastructure, they don't have the type of building space to accommodate the future of those businesses? Isn't it include revenue sharing? I don't know. I mean, I don't think I have a quick answer at this point in our fifth week of trying to figure something out. But we're going to take a look at why doesn't Seven Hills have the requisite building space? Why doesn't, Maple Heights have the requisite, building space, the maintenance, the equipment they need? If you look at some of the spaces in Maple Heights on Libby, on Broadway, those are old buildings. Those are not equipped to handle the businesses of the future. So sure, I mean, that is something we're going to take a very deep look at, because we do have that influx from even, a lot of folks are looking at the downtown, looking at moving into Slavic Village and Ohio City and University Circle and Waterloo and Gordon Park, but we do have this area of, Maple Heights and Bedford Heights and Bedford and Garfield Heights that I'm not sure is sustainable in the way that it operates today, so.
Are there some more questions? Yes.
And if I could comment just add one thing.
Yeah.
When you talk about revenue sharing and moving dollars, it certainly is a touchy issue.
I know.
Touchy issue. I want to go, as one of my colleagues say, more to the 50,000 foot level, and just talk about how there's a benefit when we all work together. When we all, I was a sponsor of the $50 million demolition fund, and it was supported unanimously, 11-0 support for the passage of this piece of legislation. But again, as it was an issue I delved into, I saw how it benefited everyone, from Westlake to East Cleveland. And the problem started with the foreclosure crisis in 2007. It devastated the east side of Cleveland, Slavic Village, Cleveland in general, first ring suburbs. There was less impact on the outer ring suburbs. The housing values were stable over the last 13 years in Westlake and many other outer ring suburbs. So why would one outer ring community want to help the inner ring for a financial reason? But there is a financial reason. And the reason is, although there was devastation in the East Cleveland and Cleveland areas and a tremendous drop in property values, the outer rings had to pick up the tax burden. The inner rings have to pick up the tax burden. So inner ring suburbs who lost value but had to pick up a tax burden, like a Garfield Heights, one of the first or second highest taxpayers in the community. Why is that? Because the foreclosure crisis was a financial earthquake that just unhinged our property values. In the outer ring suburbs, our property taxes, our values stayed stable out in Westlake and other areas, but the property value shot up. Anyone living out in these first rings can testify why they pay so much. Hard-earned property value, but an excessive property tax. And the solution is, one tool in the solution was to provide demolition dollars to stop the drop in property value in the areas where they did not live. You take those property, you destroy those vacant houses, rehab the ones that you can save, a bag of half bad apples and many good apples. Just pull out a few good apples, and the other ones you can just peel a little bit off, and it's still good. Still rehabbing those houses, and that is the start to stopping that collapse in property values. And hold the banks accountable who were forgiven. Those major banks were forgiven during by the president during 2007 of all the bad loans that they made. They went into that with the homeowner. Homeowner was responsible, but so was the property tax. So was the bank. The banks are the financially savvy ones, not the individual. They both had a problem. The banks were the ones who were forgiving their debt, but they did not turn around and forgive the homeowner. They did not turn around and say, well, can't pay $1,000 a month, pay $100 a month till you get your job back, or something creative, something to keep the resident in their home. And that's not that they deserved it. They deserved it because the bank had already been forgiven. They were being doubly enriched when they were forgiven by the federal government, and then they turned around and demanded every penny from the homeowner. Okay, that was, from a big picture, that was the problem. So how do we start to solve it? We put our money where our mouth is, $50 million, and in the coming days, weeks, and years, we demand payment from the settlements that they had to pay for their criminal, I guess it's fair to say criminal behavior, because they had to file lawsuits, and they have lost to the tune of billions. Those dollars are sitting and could be used to help not only in demolition, but in the rehabbing and redevelopment that has to come after that. So I just want to throw that out there.
So thank you. Speaker.
I wouldn't disagree with what you said. There's blame to go around. And I don't even want to say blame. If you go back and analyze what happened and identify everybody's part in it and make some corrections at every part, it's death by 1,000 cuts. Don't pick just one. You know, look at each one and see what can we do to put the appropriate Band-Aid or remedy to each person's part in the problem. So you were correct about that assessment.
Very much for coming. I think each of our speakers could entertain us for a whole hour, but it's not possible. One more treat in store for you, and that is Councilwoman Sunny Simon. And I'm going to introduce her now. She also has an extensive history as a local person. She graduated from John Carroll and went to law school at Case Western Reserve. She has a private law practice, and she previously served on South Euclid City Council for some time as president. She still serves in a number of civic organizations, such as the South Euclid County Juvenile Court. She is a magistrate, a volunteer magistrate, on the County Drug Court Board, and she's serving currently as vice chair of the County Planning Commission. She has an extracurricular hobby, which is dogs. And in that capacity, she founded the South Euclid Humane Society, and she also, I think, managed to get that community to have a dog park. Is that true? Okay. In the first 2 years of this new county government, Ms. Simon was County Council Vice President, and now she is the Chair of Education, Environment, and Sustainability. That is the committee that she chairs. District 11 runs from Euclid in the north and then going south to Beechwood and several cities in between there. So that is Council District 11. Ms. Simon. That's a better mic.
Hello. Thank you, Linda, very much. And I have two corrections. One is I no longer am a juvenile court magistrate when I got on the county council, and it was a conflict. But the other correction is I'm an advocate for dogs and cats. So I'm both a dog and a cat person. So anyways, thank you for having me, and I will try to get over the topics quickly. But the committee on which I serve and chair are two topics that are really meaningful to me. And the first one I'll discuss is the environmental aspect of the committee. I've always loved and had a passion for the environment, you know, just from an aesthetic standpoint, from wildlife, from beauty. But as I started to get more involved with issues involving the environment, I saw how these issues impact health, communities, job creation, industries, and could really drive us into a new way of living. So when I got on the city council in South Euclid, I worked really hard on environmental issues to the capacity that I could, being a community of 23,000. And what we were able to do there was a microcosm, I believe, for what we could do on a grander scale at the county. And what we worked on there was starting a smart growth plan for plan unit residential developments that were going in the last tracts of land we had in South Euclid. I started a civic engagement process where we could really, when we have to develop or there is a development, that we could do it smart. How can we do it smart? We could inventory resources. We can not just plow down these entire tracts of land and cut down every tree and plant these little, you know, tiny little twigs. And there's ways to build differently where value can stay there, aesthetic as well as wildlife. So we started that process. I left the city when we were just in the midst of that, but I still want to make sure that that can happen at the city and county level. And that's why now I'm on the Planning Commission and look at the grander vision at the county and really look at how we can develop smartly here for not only aesthetic and job, but also trying to curtail the outward migration of residents into other areas that are not developed yet and try to bring them back. So that's a little background. We reinstituted rain barrels there. We pulled out a cement culvert that handled our stormwater runoff and pulled that out and created a natural wetland. And that's on Green Road. And what that spurred was a tea shop. I don't know, Cohen's on Green. Yeah, Sanctuary on Green, which would spur some business development from that because people want to be near nature. So those are just a few examples. Riparian setback, I sponsored legislation for that to make sure when we build Euclid Creek, which sits within, by the way, all of District 11, that when we build, we're going to make sure that there's a setback, that we're not going to build right on the side of these waterways to cause more damage there. So there's things we could do. So now when I got elected to the county council, when we were setting up our different committee structures, I wanted to make sure that we had a committee called the Environmental Committee. And I knew that in sustainability, I knew it was going to be really important going down the road here because that's our future. So we did. We created the committee and later combined it with education, which made sense. So last year, I started a process where I wanted to revitalize and create a Department of Sustainability, which I'm very grateful that after hearings that we had in committee with very talented and educated people who came to speak to council, including Mike Foley, who I'm going to introduce today, my council colleagues agreed that this was a great idea for the county in terms of how can we move forward at the county in a sustainable way. Well, what do we mean by that? Well, what we mean by that is the county can become a resource center for different aspects of our community to allow them to learn about how are we going to be able to create a clean community, a healthy community, a vibrant community, but also as a job generator, as an economic develop generator, because it doesn't have to just be the tree huggers over here and business over here. I really think that there's a place where there's the sweet spot where we could combine all of these aspects and really move this county as a leader. And this was evident when we had our launch 3 days ago, and Executive Budish is fully supportive of this initiative, which I'm so grateful for as well. But in that room for the launch, we had labor, we had COSI, we had environmental leaders, and we had financial people. So this is the combination, what we're going to start seeing. So the department's formed. We have our first director who has been hired. He needs to be confirmed. And we have a co-director, Chanel Smith, who's fabulous and has a great background in really how to finance projects for green business and investment. So we've launched it. It's here. I wanted to, if I could, introduce Mike Foley for 1 minute so he can come before us. And Mike is a former state legislator, and very pleased to have him on board. He knows a lot about what's been happening with utilities and standards.
Thanks, Councilwoman. Thank you, League. I as Councilwoman Simon said, I was a legislator for 8 years, and so I appeared in front of your forums frequently over the years, and talked to you about many of the state issues that were going on. Yeah, so I think that I'm the new director of the Department of Sustainability in the county, and I'm really excited and thrilled to take on this endeavor. I think that environmental issues are not going to go away. I mean, the issues involving climate change and just kind of the kind of harms that are occurring on the earth are becoming more ever present in our daily minds, and I think that it's incumbent upon the county, and that's why I think that Councilwoman Simon and the county council's push to create a Department of Sustainability is really important, because it's incumbent upon the county to do as much as possible to help both reduce emissions, but do it in a way that also has economic impacts and benefits for the county. So that's what we're going to be working on. As Councilwoman Simon said, we've got we're bringing on Chanel Smith, who is just brilliant in terms of helping to develop financing for kind of green energy projects, energy efficiency projects. And we think we've got some folks who are interested in coming to the county and helping, hopefully, to invest in some of these things. So that, because this is kind of complicated stuff, investing in solar panels or energy efficiency measures. It's, this stuff is complicated. It's not easy, and sometimes it's abstract. And I think what we want to do is be able to make it clear to folks, here's the benefits of what you could be getting if you put some solar panels on your roof, or you invest in energy efficiency measures. Here's how you're going to make some money off of this, right? And here's how it's going to also help both the environment and the community at large with hopefully new businesses. So I'm excited. This is day 4 for me. So I wish I could tell you I had the whole plan going forward, but we don't yet. But working with Councilwoman Simon and County Council, we're going to be working on that, and hopefully come forward with something pretty quick. So, okay? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. I just wanted to mention the target customers for this department, and we're looking at municipalities, government entities. Municipalities several years back received money from NSP funds, HUD money, to undergo audits of their municipal complexes. So these audits are sitting out there, but there was no real way to implement the work that needed to be done to receive the cost savings the municipal complexes could actually have. And so we're going to target municipalities with those audits to enable them to learn what resources are available to get these audits done. And what I envision for the department is really being also a resource center for communities to come and say, hey, we want to get this audit done. How can we do it? And right here in-house, we're going to have financial information. We're going to have, hopefully, what I hope to see is a green energy fund, whether that comes from grants or whatever the private sector, and maybe even from, I'll say it here, maybe some county, a little bit of seed money to really start this going, because that's what we need. So our other target would be universities, schools. When I was in Sedona, their schools had all solar panels. I don't know why we can't do that here. Even though we have winter, there's enough light to generate the energy that we need. So we're looking at schools, we're looking at municipalities. I'm looking to residents. Residents need help. If, you know, I want a solar panel on my house, where do I go for that? How do I do this? And it's really expensive, but maybe the county can be able to pool the residents together and get buying power from the number of people who actually want to invest in this long-term return. So those are the places we're looking. But housing, we talked about housing. How can housing be affected by this department? It's huge. I will talk about South Euclid for 1 minute. They receive NSP funds as well. They decided when I was on council to invest in some of our abandoned homes, foreclosed homes that were blights. We invested money, and I'll give credit to our mayor, Georgine Wheelo and Sally Martin, for having the vision for this. And they took these homes and revitalized them into LEED certified gold homes in neighborhoods that were suffering, where home values were plummeting. And as a result of these homes being gold certified, guess what? They sold. They sold, and they sold for almost double what the market value was in the surrounding area. We put parks there, community gardens on these sites, and created what we call a green neighborhood initiative to stabilize pockets of our neighborhood. And I have pictures here. I hope you'll look. I mean, they're beautiful homes. So we want to do this countywide. And as part of that, I was instrumental when we were going through the demo process, the fund for that. I said, we need a plan. We can't just have $50 million. And we worked really hard, Purnell did, and everybody on council to make sure it was effective. But we really can't be effective unless we have a housing plan. So with the Planning Commission's help, they've been hired to create this housing plan. So we can really see what makes sense for investment. If we have homes that are blighted and they abut a park or a different type of neighborhood, we can target that and say, okay, maybe this is a good place for a green neighborhood investment. Maybe this is where we can demo some homes and come with the sustainability financing and be able to create a whole green neighborhood. Wouldn't that be great? So, you know, this is the vision we have for the department. So I was supposed to talk as well about education. I'm going to touch on what we're doing with 3 programs. And as part of the charter initiative, we were mandated to create a scholarship fund and work on education issues. And what we've done so far is we have the kindergarten or the college savings account. We know about that. Every kindergartner will get $100 in a savings account. We're going to be looking at that to see how that's going. We have a great investment in the early education, childhood education, because studies have shown that the first place you start for the future success is with the youth, the kids. So we have Invest in Children, which is concentrating on universal pre-K. We have 35 sites. It's not universal yet. That's aspirational. But we are making sure that there's quality pre-K education for kids, and we're looking at to make sure teachers or the people who are there are trained well. And that's part of what we're doing, and student-teacher ratios are controlled. So that's our other program, and we have College Now, where we've decided to invest in the College Now scholarship program that takes high schoolers, and they are able to get scholarships for college. But what's important with College Now is they actually do mentoring. And that's a feature that we have found to be extremely successful with students when they go to college, and you can give them a scholarship, but sometimes it really is necessary to help them with mentorship through the process so they can succeed in that first semester at college. So those are the 3 of the programs that we're looking to, and we might be tweaking some of those and seeing how we can do better. I mean, we're only in after 4 years. I think we've accomplished a lot with what we were asked to do.
Sunny, I have a question for you, and that is, are any of these initiatives things that could have been done under the old system of government, or are you taking advantage of features of the charter system and limited county home rule to take off on things that were not possible before?
Thanks. Great question, Linda. Leading question. No, but you're right. No, I think without the charter, no, the home rule is huge. And first of all, let's talk about education. In the charter itself, we have that education mandate, the scholarship mandate. So the previous government didn't have that. That would have been probably not on their radar, or in the way that it is now, that we actually, because of this charter, focused on it and have a committee on education. So I am grateful for that charter and the sustainability initiatives. I think with this home rule piece, it's huge, and that's going to enable us. I don't even know how limited it is yet, Linda. We don't know. We haven't tested the water really on home rule and how far we can go with that. And I think eventually there's going to be something there. I made the mistake early on of talking about plastic bags, and it was too soon. But would that be a home rule? How bad they are and how we could generate, I don't know if you all know, but other counties and every place in the world now is handling these bags. And that's a home rule issue. Do we have the ability to go into communities and do this? So I think the charter gives us so much more focus and ability and wherewithal in so many different ways, even financially, because we have businesses that move back because of the charter government, right? I mean, before, people did not want to do business here. But now with this new charter government, they do. It's welcome, it's open, it's everybody has a chance to come in and do business here. So all around, yes, the charter has been amazing.
Susan.
Yes, Councilwoman, what powers do you have to more than just encourage communities to work together when one self-interest is not perhaps the other, like the outer rings with the inner rings, on sustainability issues of water and so on? Sometimes, do you have power to do that?
I don't think we have, and that's the most sensitive place to go into communities, is to go into their own ability to have their own planning and zoning. That's really what you're talking about. And the county will not be able to go in there, and enforce and regulate how communities do that. But I think there's incentives that actually Executive, Fitzgerald started with that protocol agreement, with those agreements that we can incentivize communities to work together. And planning and zoning, I think we can't control, but we can come to the table and see how communities can be incentivized to work together. Correct. That's Mr. Krause's area.
I'm a College Now mentor, and they are going to increase the class of the number of students that will need mentors in the fall. They need like hundreds of new people. So if anybody would like to volunteer or knows someone else who would like to volunteer, they would be very interested in new people.
Okay, thank you. That's a plug. It's a great program. Thanks for doing that.
How are we going to work on sustainability, particularly things like solar, when the state is working against us on this?
Well, you got it. And I was hoping, where's Mike Foley, was going to talk about the standards that were set back in Columbus, and that's exactly why we need Cuyahoga County to be a leader in this. We have to, despite what's happening at the state, be able to create and generate here the programs that will show the residents and the communities what can happen up here. I think despite that, the investments now will have a place to go. And I'm not as educated on that as Mike Foley is, but I think despite what's happening at the state, we have a responsibility and obligation now to harness the opportunities that we're waiting to occur statewide and capture that here at the county, because those opportunities don't go away. They're there waiting to come to fruition. Investment into green energy. So I think that's our obligation, and it's great timing, but I want Mr. Foley to maybe touch on that, who knows more about what happened at the state. Quickly.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a big problem. When Senate Bill 310 passed last year, it froze our renewable energy portfolio standards, and it froze out a bunch of investments. It's over $2.5 billion worth of investments that were coming into clean energy in the state of Ohio that have now, either are sitting on the sidelines, or probably a lot of it's just gone away. So that was a lot of kind of the big there's a lot of investors out there in the world who are interested in investing in clean energy because they can make money off this stuff, but they also need states and local governments to put resources and energy and effort into helping push the envelope a little bit. So I think Councilwoman Simon is right, is that by having something here in Cuyahoga County that's going to be working on that, then we're probably ahead of the game in terms of other areas in the state of Ohio. Secondly, the Obama administration is coming out with these clean power plant rules that'll probably take effect in June or July, that by necessity are going to force utility companies like First Energy to roll back on some of their really dirty power plants, and I think it's going to help push some more investment into clean energy in the state of Ohio. And there are some investors out there who are looking at Cuyahoga County who aren't the big investors, but are kind of like the medium-sized investors, who realize that the big investors have all left, right, or leaving. And so there's actually a little, ironically, because we've got this department now, they feel like, and they kind of can see the writing on the, see what's happening down on the road coming down the pike, that they know that if they're in here now up front, that they can both help create kind of a greener environment, but also make a little bit of money off this stuff. So, okay.
Are there some more questions from the audience? Okay, then I would like very much to thank Councilwoman Simon. You still have some more time if you want to go on about something else of near to your heart. Oh, there is a question. There is one question.
A lot of communities struggle with their stormwater management. A lot of communities struggle with the infrastructure, their sewers. A lot of communities get flooded, and a very difficult position it puts communities in. Some communities have the resources to deal with, some don't. So what I found recently is that the county does provide a lot of resources to communities in that regard. I don't know if in terms of what power the county has, but I think there's such a level of open communication now between the County Planning Commission, the Public Works Department that the county has, the sewer district, that the county now is looking at the city's master plans, because that's where a lot of this develops, is with each city has their own master plan, or should have their own master plan that's fully developed, and each city should have a stormwater management plan that goes in conjunction with their master plan, and that deals with when a business comes in, it has to have certain permeable surfaces when it comes to water runoff. There has to be a certain amount of green space, like a city may propose 20% or 25%, but the county works very effectively, I think, with the cities in looking at their master plan, how it fits in an overall stormwater management plan, and I think it's something that can't be dictated to, but I think there has to be a lot of communication and it's a lot of work that goes into working with the city to develop that. And the one thing I did also want to mention, when it comes to partnerships and collaboration, there's probably no stronger and more important partnership that the executive will have is with county council, and that's something that probably is our top priority as the executive branch. And as you can see here, myself being part of the executive, Carlton, part of the executive team, Mike Foley is now part of the executive team, working with our partners on county council, David Greenspan, Pernell Jones, Sonny Simon. So in my years, I have found that best government is when the executive branch and the legislative branch work hand in hand and are partners in this effort, not when communication is closed off and when you don't have a close working relationship. And not that you can't disagree, you can disagree without being disagreeable, but there's constant communication and there's transparency and there's openness. If you notice, just in the last 5 weeks, the amount of times that Dave Greenspan and Pernell Jones and Sonny Simon have come to the 8th floor and spoken with either the county executive or the executive staff, I would venture to say that they would say it's quite a lot just over the last 5 weeks. And so we are going to continue to have a very close relationship with county council, because that's really how you get the work done, is making sure you're open, you're transparent, and you get the work done, even if it takes a few extra hours and a few extra meetings to make sure that's very effective. So just wanted to mention that. And as you can see, we're developing that type of relationship.
I don't have a question, but I want to thank Sonny Simon and the other two speakers. You are doing a great job. Your overview and your ideas are so exciting, and it was just a pleasure and for me, very inspiring to hear what you all had to say today. And Sonny, your overview and bringing the perspective that you bring is just welcome to those of us who care about those issues.
So that completes most of our program for today. And I think all of us agree with what Roz Peters just said, that the amount of community relations which are evident when you start observing the county council for as many years as I've been doing, and a number of us here have been observers as well. We really get to know this government, and this government is very responsive to people who care. There are never enough people at county council meetings. I would recommend to you all that you should at some point attend one, because they need to know that we're not just watching them on television or on the live streaming system at home, but we're here because we care about what they're doing. So thank you very much for coming today, and we really appreciate it. You wanted to say one more thing?
And you'll be able to check out our green roof, I think, even though there's some snow up there. Please go up and check out the green roof.
And now, what you all need to stretch, because we've been sitting still for 2 hours, this is Joe Nanny. And Joe is the chief of staff for the county council, and he has agreed to give us a little walking tour of the building. Should we meet out there in 5 minutes, and so that people have a chance?
Yes, but let me give a little overview, and maybe we'll start with that. Okay. Just real quick, number one, thank you very much for coming. This is a great turnout, but it'll obviously, as you know, it'll make it a little difficult to do the tour. So I just want to maybe explain to you how maybe I'm going to recommend we do it. We have Dave Greenspan here. He said that he would be around to help us navigate the elevators and the floors. Tiffany from my office is on her way down. She's going to help us. So we'll be separated a little bit, but I just want to give you an overview of what I'm thinking in terms of the tour and what we do here. Just real quick is the way the building was designed, the fourth floor, most of you came over through the elevator, and the first floor are more the transactional floors. So if you're coming in to do county business, right outside the door here, you are able to get deeds and things along those lines from what was formerly the auditor's office. Downstairs is the treasurer's office, and you can pay taxes and do all your transactional work by licenses and things like that. So that's how it was designed. The rest of the building is offices where, you know, people come in and out, but these are the more public floors. Obviously, the county council chambers. The technology in this room, as you already know, is really, really cool. And we really had in light of the change in the county government and everything and the whole openness and transparency, county council has been really, really committed to making sure government is open as much as possible and people have the ability to view things. So not only are our meetings live streamed, they're also put up on the website. So if you do happen to miss it, you can always go back and check out a meeting in terms of what it was said very easily through our website. I will stress, if anybody has any ideas on how we can make that website better or easier to navigate, we're always interested in having outsiders give us their opinion. Sometimes you get too caught up in creating something, you forget about what the user experience is. So please, you know, I'm asking you to give us some feedback on that. So through the door over here, there's an executive session / committee room. So that's one. I think what we're going to do is try to hit this floor and the 8th floor. And then there is the roof up there, and I know it's very cold today, and there's only one elevator that actually takes you up there, and it's not off the beaten path. It's the service elevator that's behind. So maybe what we'll do is if folks, if they whoever wants to do the last part of the tour and check out the roof, literally it's going to be taking the elevator up and probably cracking the door open a little bit and looking outside. When we go up to the county council offices, there's a committee room that you'll see, and I think it's probably the best room in the building. It probably provides you the best view of what you see directly upstairs. You're just one floor lower and warmer today. So for right now, I think what we can do is take a break. We'll meet outside, as Linda said, and I'll talk with you a little bit about the artwork out there, and then we'll shoot up to the 8th floor from there. How's that? Oh, Linda. You can leave out all the things you want in here. That shouldn't be a problem at all. I'll make sure the guard